These mountains and rolling hills may be one of China's best-kept secrets. Nestled in the heart of East China's Zhejiang province, the slopes of the Mogan Mountains National Park are cloaked in emerald robes of bamboo. Now, this scenic area reflects China's commitment to balancing between ecological protection and socio-economic development. Here, the cobblestone mountain trails of yesteryears compete with the easy-on-your-feet walking trails of today. This, I would say, sanctuary of serenity is but one example of China's drive to become what's called an ecological civilization, where humanity and nature coexist in harmony. Ambassador Nijs, good to see you again.
Good to see you again, Michael. Really, welcome to Mogan.
Thank you. Breathtaking views, fantastic place.
I think you belong here.
Thank you. Let's have a look inside. Oh, gosh. You can definitely feel the nature here. Please, after you. All right, let's have a seat and have a conversation.
It's a good setup to get the inspiration.
Yes. Ambassador Nijs, so you grew up in the countryside of Africa. How did that shape your thinking when it comes to the ecology?
We were free and savage.
Free and savage.
It was in the tropical forest. Being born in such a situation is a gift which actually has inspired all my life.
You better appreciate nature, I guess, if you grow up in that kind of environment.
Yeah, we were running barefoot all the time.
Yeah.
This was a very, very unique childhood. I'm happy I had this kind of startup in this life.
Yeah. That foundation for the appreciation of love of nature was set up at a very early age. So you first came to China in 1997 as part of the Belgian diplomatic service, and then you became ambassador to China in 2009, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly.
So talk to us about your journey here in China, what you've seen since then.
So I came to China in 1997. As Consul General of Belgium in Shanghai. If you go back to Shanghai today, this is another city.
Yeah.
And funny enough, it's just 27 years ago. So I had in my own experience, actually, the whole story of Chinese development in a way. That China has been able to do this jump, which took 400 years to the West to do, is a kind of incredible achievement, with all the consequences as well, which means, I mean that 40 years to do this has had also a kind of environmental cost, which China is making up today, which is also the interesting part of the story.
Yeah. It's interesting because you chose to retire early from the ambassadorship.
Yeah.
Walk us through your thought process in terms of why you chose to retire early, but actually to stay in China as well, because I feel it is rather uncommon for an ambassador to stay in the place where they were posted. Why choose to retire early and stay in China and stay in Yunnan?
You know, I'm 74. I spent 40 years out of Belgium. And I have no roots because I was born in Africa. And so when it comes to the question of where should I retire, it's open. So I had to decide where I would go. So in 2010, I was invited to visit Yunnan by the Party Secretary of Panlong, which is one of the biggest districts of Kunming. And he brought me to Yunnan. We spent 10 days going through. And then after this trip, I said, I will retire here.
You fell in love from that trip.
Exactly. This was the right synthesis because between Africa and China, where you had this kind of natural setup with people who are still searching for the development way, and at the same time you had China. So it was an excellent combination, so I decided to retire in China. And in Yunnan.
In Yunnan, yeah.
And this is the beginning of the story.
Yeah. And you're farming in Yunnan. Permaculture,
permaculture,
to be specific.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell us more about that.
So I came to ecology in the 70s. I was working at the University of Louvain at the time, and I had a garden, and I was doing bio gardening, and we were also involved in all the first development of organic agriculture in Europe, and also with all the questions that I had actually gathered or brought together during my diplomatic career, which were related to environment, with the key issue is how do we produce our food and what are we doing there? Conviction that the way we do is leading us to nowhere. We cannot do that. We have to change, and this is urgent and necessary. So in my study about organic farming, I came to discover in 2017 permaculture, and I think this is the most advanced methodology we have today to restore natural fertility.
So permaculture, this is agricultural ecosystems that are self-sufficient, they are sustainable, but my concern here is that they're not scalable. So we have 8 billion people to feed around the world, over 1.4 billion people here in China. I mean, China has said that it will increase its high-quality farmland area.
Exactly.
There are certain red lines that China will not cross when it comes to the environment and agriculture. But isn't that a concern? Yes, sustainable, self-sufficient farmland, that's very important, but we can't do that at scale.
Well, this is a very common argument. The situation is we are 8 billion, we can feed them today, but what will be the consequences for the next generations? We know that if you get the whole production of edible forest, you can produce more food than you would by doing just monoculture. We know that. The problem is that you get a big diversity of products, and this is much more complicated to predict and manage. And this is where I think we need AI, for example. You know, this becomes a very complicated issue where you have to deal with a system. It's not like you have a land, you plant, it's very linear, it's very simple. I mean, maybe our ancestors came to this because it was easy. I mean, if you have to deal with a system, it's not easy at all. It becomes very complicated. But the result is also much better. But you need to change all what is beyond and behind. Well, one of the principles of permaculture is also when you go to steward your landscape, you need to think about the next generation. So, yeah, that's it.
Fair point. While it's not unheard of, it's certainly not the norm for an ambassador to retire in the country they served in. Patrick Nijs was Belgium's former ambassador to China. Now he spends a big part of his retired life inside the Morgan Mountains. Passionate about the environment since childhood, Ambassador Nijs is an advocate of stronger eco-environmental cooperation between Europe and China. So Ambassador Nijs, you said you've been in China now for nearly 3 decades. Have your experiences here in China also shaped the views in terms of how you view the environment and the ecology?
When I came, China was still full force, busy with the development, with no much care for the environment. So I was a bit scared with that. My experience with the governance in China is that the system is able to point out at the problems and find out the solutions. The Chinese government has, of course, also seen that, and they have taken the measures to bring it right. China has actually done all this in a very short period and is now also ready and engaged in how can we change? And we need to change. And you can do nothing without China. You can do nothing without China. And there is no solution at all if we do not get China at our side. And China is also very much dealing with these issues, and much more than most people in Europe are aware of. And I think that the job we urgently need to do is to make clear to all the people busy with ecology in China that they have counterparts in Europe, all the people busy with environment in Europe, make it very clear to them that they have counterparts in China which are ready to cooperate with them in order to give decisive answers to this ecological challenge. Docking China and Europe becomes, in this regard and with this concern, a kind of necessary thing to do.
Yeah. And you have to be in the lush mountains in a serene environment like this to really appreciate it. So we're in a place called the Mogan Mountains in East China's Zhejiang province, and the Mogan Mountains is part of Huzhou City. And not far from where we are, part of Huzhou City, is a village where President Xi Jinping proposed the concept of lucid waters and lush mountains are invaluable assets. What is your take on this concept?
This is actually the concept of ecological civilization, which starts from here. He was a kind of visionary in that. And this is part of something which Europe is missing. Europe doesn't understand that there is a very consistent ecological content in the policies that Xi Jinping is implementing. And this has started here. And I'm not surprised that it has started here, because this is a sanctuary of nature, which is also very close to urban centers, major urban centers. Shanghai, Suzhou, Nanjing, Hangzhou, huge cities of 20 million people.
Yeah.
You drive 2 hours and you can reach 100 millions of people who are all, also thinking about where we go. To be this kind of platform where people concerned with nature can come together in order to improve our link, our relationship with nature.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned ecological civilization, so this is one of the overarching frameworks and thought, I guess, that guides China's attitudes and views towards the environment. And it's basically, how can we find the right balance, harmony between humanity and nature? Can China actually get there?
Of course, I have no doubt about it. And there is in the very deep roots of the Chinese culture, there is this sense of harmony with nature, which has been actually advocated by Lao Tzu, Chuang Tzu, and so on. And then you have also the fact that China has a government which is able to take big decisions and move quickly. You need to have a government which is efficient and powerful enough to do that. They can feed this with Chinese terms.
Yeah. I mean, it will be interesting to see a developing economy, still the world's largest developing economy, with such a massive population making this green transition. How do you see the future of environmental protection? Mindsets, maybe, that need to shift here in China, policies that need to change as well, because China has a very ambitious target when it comes to carbon neutrality by 2060, peaking ideally before 2030, needs to achieve that in a much shorter time.
When it comes to this agenda, I think China is ahead of that. It's like China accepted to these 2 dates, 2030 for the peak, 2060 for the carbon neutrality, just because they knew they were busy with this and they could really easily meet this term. So China is ahead of that. China is busy with green energy. I mean, if you look at the figures for the wind energy and the sun energy, China is leading the world. Of course, China is taking taken a lead in this production of EV. The real answer is in the mind.
A complete shift in mindset in terms of how we live sustainably.
Change of paradigm completely. I mean, we have to revisit completely the way we deal with nature.
When it comes to energy, you mentioned coal. So China is coal rich. That's just a natural endowment that China has. But of course, China has been adamant in terms of transitioning towards more renewable energy, and we're seeing coal's share as part of the overall energy mix coming down. But China is coal rich. But China has also said, look, we need to provide energy security for our people. But at least as of now, coal still plays a major and important role.
Of course, Of course they can. It's a matter of time and it's a matter of governance. You cannot take such a big move from one day to another. It takes time. But China is busy with that. And they have what it takes to address the issue efficiently and quickly. You have to find a balanced way to do this, but you have to do this quickly. And this might be the dilemma of the Chinese government. Not easy, huh? Not easy at all.
It's a complicated country.
It's a complicated
big country to govern.
But you have to make of the ecological issue the top priority. And this is very difficult for any government.
But do you get the sense at the central government level and also at the provincial, local government level that this is indeed a priority for the country?
To put this into Chinese terms, modernization has to go on, but it has to change its nature, and it has to make sure that it is actually moving forward in a sustainable way.
You bring up a good point, Chinese modernization. China has laid out a blueprint in terms of how it will modernize. And green development, protecting the environment, building a beautiful China. I think China has made it very clear that these will be fundamental aspects of China's modernization process. This year marks the 75th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China. What have you seen from China's development?
It's completely breathtaking, amazing. I mean, you can only use superlative to qualify this. China has done in a very short time what all the other countries have done within centuries. And thanks to the fact that China has been able to go through this development and has been able to do this on its own terms, China is actually standing on its own feet, has gone through the whole process in a successful way. So China is there, China will be tone-giving, and we have to move together.
Like you said, China's scale, I guess, is too large to ignore. And perhaps China's experiences when it comes to the green transition, it can offer some useful lessons, I guess, for the rest of the world as well. And hopefully this can be a common thread that can bind humanity together, and we can work together more on this front. China has made green development a key feature in its path to modernization. As national authorities have clearly stated, they understand the limits of China's environmental capacity. And that's why policymakers at all levels of government are working to ensure that, yes, development maximizes economic and social benefits, but at a minimum cost in resources and environmental impact, so that this and future generations can still enjoy a beautiful and green China. Absolutely breathtaking views. And in a sense, I feel Ambassador Mo Ganshan chose you, and you chose Mo Ganshan as well. Talk to us about what you've seen here and what you're doing here.
This is a very unique place with a very special energy. For me, it's like the natural platform to connect people, to connect people with nature. You see, a platform where people can connect, meet, and all this in an exceptionally beautiful natural setup. You know, we have to find back our ways to nature. Being in such a position is what we need.
Yeah. But this place, I think, is also special for you because you have a vision for Moganshan. Talk to us more about this vision of yours.
So when you look at the identity, the nature of Moganshan, and you put this into the international context today, you come up with a combination which is unique, I think. So what is happening today? We are heading to the toughest times we have ever had as a species. We have climate change, we have pollution, we have warming of oceans, I mean, name it. There is a shift growing between global south and the west at the time where we really need to get together to save our skin. So it's absolutely essential today to create platforms. We need absolutely to clutch, gear up all what is done in Europe to face these challenges. Cheer this up with what China is doing. The present situation is unacceptable because there is a completely denial and lack of knowledge from the European side about what China thinks and does when it comes to meeting these challenges. This is like crazy. So we have an idea of having this big forum with the political people. At the same time, a carnival of ideas that would come from all over the world to show.
I love how this bird just joins into our conversation.
Thank you. This
it's
is the
perfect.
Music we need.
Music to our ears. Yeah.
So bring all these people together to show all what can be done. Also, I think by doing this, we will also help the Dojin government and the Huzhou government to meet their target, which is attract talents, investment and technology. So you have all what it takes here to come up with the green card, not the permanent resident,
Right.
the green card to open the doors for our common future. Because the situation today is that bad that whatever the Chinese side says, it won't be accepted. It will be, considered as propaganda and things. It will be denied in a way, discarded. So very difficult to get into the issue and having the ears and the attention of the European side. So we need to do this kind of reformat of the communication in order to help it to go through and bring this message to all the people in Europe.
Ambassador, let's head further into the mountains,
and
perhaps we can talk more about how China and Europe can better work together, cooperate when it comes to dealing with our common challenge of the environment and climate.
My
After
wish,
you.
Michael. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah. Ambassador, so you were talking to us earlier about the need for China and Europe to cooperate more when it comes to climate, when it comes to the environment. How can these two sides better work together when it comes to these issues?
I think we need to bring the right actors to meet, to move much deeper and closer into cooperation and understanding. People would move out of their ivory tower and then meet other actors which are also involved.
Yeah.
Go beyond stereotypes and just move together. As I said, I think there is no way out, way forward without China.
Yeah.
That's unthinkable. You know, the second largest economy in the world.
So I guess that raises the importance of communication and exchange and cooperation, and more people perhaps needing to come to China and see what China is doing when it comes to green development.
Definitely. You have to recognize that China has been able to achieve what it has achieved because it has a kind of efficient governance. Same for ecology. I think people are just not wishing to hear because they have an a priori. And the a priori is that whatever China will come up with, it's propaganda. And that's it.
I see.
So we don't even listen because for us the message is biased. And the only possible way is to say, okay, let's go together. The topic is not politics, and we really declare from the beginning on no politics.
The practitioners, though, the practitioners in Europe, when it comes to green development, would they like to work with China, or at least try and better understand what China is doing on the environment?
This is my understanding. They're wishing to. They just don't find the right channels to do so.
Set the ground rules first. Don't talk about politics here.
Don't talk about politics.
Just talk about how we can better work together to solve one of humanity's common challenges.
And try to understand what is exactly the content of this ecological challenge.
Best practices, perhaps, mindsets, lifestyles. Agriculture as well. So, Ambassador, I feel like China, yes, the go-go years of development, we've seen perhaps some at the expense of the environment, but now China is really taking steps to ensure that it's restoring the environment, protecting the environment as well.
You know, China is the best of the best when it comes to infrastructure. The young people in Europe are much more aware of the consequences of their economic behavior on the environment. China is also doing, you know, they have prohibited these plastic bags, and so it's starting.
Which is again why I feel like especially young people should come to a place like this, raise their awareness in terms of the beauty and the environment.
Exactly.
And perhaps that can change their mindset, habits. Any little change in habits perhaps might help. Would you think there are spillovers? China's experiences in green, can that translate to other perhaps developing, emerging economies?
I'm sure China knows, because China has gone this way and has also had to face the consequences and is dealing with that. And I think also that is a very important issue on which we need to get together, helping Africa to take another path of development. I think there is a lot we can share.
China and Europe can definitely work together to support Africa's development and green development ambitions as well.
Of course, yeah.